Most of you are probably familiar with Christopher Kidd, co-host of Seahawks Man with Michael-Shawn Dugar. He also hosts and produces a radio show every Monday through Friday on KJR. Well, Chris is coming on this show for the first time, and what I'm going to dig into tonight is two different aspects of the Seahawks roster. I want to know players that he thinks are being forgotten, overlooked, taken for granted, not getting enough attention through this offseason, maybe being overshadowed by some other players, but shouldn't be, might still be poised to make the roster, make a big impact. And then players that have pressure on them. We're each going to name a couple on each side of the ball. It's coming up next. Can't wait to get into it. Christopher Kidd on Seahawks Forever.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
Also get a chance to get Chris's thoughts on the Shaq Griffin signing today as well, as we had some news here. And I didn't have this information when I posted my quick reaction earlier today when that news broke, but the deal as reported by Greg Bell today and others, 1 year, $3 million, according to Curtis Allen. Likely half of that is guaranteed in the form of a signing bonus, but up to $4 million with incentives. Shaq Griffin back in Seattle. Also, if you haven't checked out yesterday's episode, please do. Robert Mays from the Athletic Football Show, outstanding podcaster, one of the brightest minds out there doing what he does. Really enjoyed our conversation from last night as well. So if you haven't caught up to that video yet, please do. But let's get into this. Christopher Kidd from Seahawks Man and KJR chatting it up on the other side. Christopher, it's so good to have you on the show. We have a few things in common. We're both members of the Blue Wire Network. You and Michael-Shawn over there on the Man pod, and we're also both proud graduates of the Edward R. Murrow School of Communications in Pullman, Washington. Go Cougs!
Go freaking Cougs, man! Yes.
It's good to have you. Hey, before we get into some topics and get your thoughts on this the Seahawks roster as it's currently constructed, with training camp now less than a month away, that sneaks up on us quick. We have some news today. The Seahawks with a reunion of sorts, and we knew they'd been kicking the tires on Shaq Griffin. They bring him back today, sign him to a 1-year deal, $3 million, up to $4 million, I think. Your thoughts on the signing?
I like the move a lot. This is someone that's a veteran. And when you say veteran, you're probably thinking, oh, he's 35, 34. Did you guys know that Shaq is 29 years old? He's only 2 years older than Josh Jobe.
That's crazy.
He's just played a lot. And we know him because obviously the Seahawks drafted him a long time ago, which I can say now. And in the NFL, you don't last this long usually. When you think about it, he's been in the league, if I'm not mistaken, since 2017, 18. That's a long time to be in the NFL. Yeah. So with that being said, yeah, maybe he's old in that standpoint, but he only played 50% of the snaps last season with the Vikings. So you're getting a guy that can play some DB. I think he is going to fit right in with Josh Jobe. I think those two are going to battle for a spot. I really see that right now, but this is early, but it's a good move for the Seahawks just in case people get banged up. You got some insurance. I think Shaq Griffin is a perfect insurance policy, dare I say.
Yeah, it's funny how fans react to stuff, right? I've already gotten some feedback today when I did a little reaction show earlier today, like, hey, maybe this will free up Spoon to play more in the slot. And I'm just like, pump the brakes a little bit. I don't think he's going to be in that role.
No.
I do like the depth. I think this puts Shamar Jean-Charles squarely in the crosshairs just because the contract is more formidable. Yep. Maybe now we can see what Shaquem's doing and get the whole band back together, right? Like
that would be insane if they did that. Just bring his brother back in just for the hell of it. But that would be interesting to see. I doubt they do that, but I get this is having fun. Why not bring your brother in? He made the team initially. Hell, they combined for a sack. I know you might remember that. They sent Shaquille on a corner blitz and Shaquem on a blitz, and they combined for a sack. I don't know if that's ever been done before in NFL history. So there's a little something for Seahawk fans to dive into as well. If the Seahawks do, in fact, say, you know what, Shaquem, we'll give you another opportunity to join the Seahawks with this new regime, because as you guys all now know, this is a completely different team, a completely different defense. So this might work even more in Shaquille's benefit. We'll see how it all plays out. There's still a training camp that needs to happen, preseason game before we get to week 1. But to your point about depth purposes, this is a solid depth piece.
Yeah.
And I think Shaq, he still has something to prove for sure.
Yeah, and as much as, the knock on him has always been, and it frustrated me as much as anyone when he was here, just the weird kind of lack of ball production and ball skills that didn't seem to match up with the athletic ability. Like, he'd be in position to make a play, but he just didn't have that kind of production. I think in this role, you wouldn't be needing that as much. And plus he was really good as a run defender last year, and we know how important that is to Mike Macdonald. And it's funny, all kidding aside about his twin brother, I wonder, because I remember back then, especially 2019, 2020, when he started to get on the field a little bit, and was at least on the active roster on game day more often than he was his first year in the league. I kind of feel like Mike Macdonald would have found a way to get something out of Shaquem as a pass rusher. Like, he would have taken advantage of that skill set.
It's just more of a challenge just because he's so on the light side. He's a speed guy, and speed's only going to do so much for you. If your one move is speed, it's going to be very hard to get to the quarterback. You got to have something else. And in those situations, he would basically be a third down pass rusher. And it's very hard because I think he might be 6'2", 6'3", and he comes in at a whopping 235.
Yeah.
That was at that time. And now today's offensive lines are even more athletic, even more faster. While, yes, back then he used his speed quite well and was able to, he had a couple of impactful plays on the snaps that he did get. I think it'd just be more of a challenge. And maybe Mike Macdonald could unlock that. But I just know he's just so light. I just think there's only a certain package that he would get in. And even then, if you're not impactful, why are we even putting you out there? Because when we put you out there, you're not giving us anything. And that's tough to do. That's tough. Yeah. That's a tough ask. And then that's a tough, hey, you're not really producing. So how do we use you? It's kind of with Darrell Taylor, who they ended up trading. He just didn't fit with Mike Macdonald. Darrell Taylor had he's fast, strong, got off the line quick, but it just didn't work with the Seahawks. And that might happen with Shaquem Griffin if they did that back. Or I could be 100% wrong, and Mike Macdonald just unlocks this guy that gets 6.5, 7 sacks, and this defense is even better now because on the other end, you have Derek Hall, who has a crazy year. Let's say Uchenna Nwosu, he is healthy, and he comes back and has a standout year. And obviously Byron Murphy, Jay Reed, and we can't forget Big Leo. Let's say they all just do their thing. Like, this could be the number one defense in the NFL.
Yeah,
but I don't want to get you guys all too excited. Sorry, 12. just wishful thinking.
Hey, I've been banging that drum for 2 months. That this defense should be good enough, cohesive enough. 15 players who started games last year. You can make the case that depending on which day, all 11 starters back. Not many teams in the league can say that. Should give them a chance at least early in the season. If that offense is going to take a little while to gel with all the changes there, defense should at least be able to keep them in games, right?
And how do I forget DeMarcus Lawrence?
I love that.
He's probably going to start over Derek Hall now that I think about it, but you guys get my point.
Yeah. I know this term is overused, but I remember when the news broke that DeMarcus Lawrence was signed, first word that popped into my head was dog. Dude is just a dog, and he's going to fit great in that locker room and on the field. I had one more before we get into some of the topics that we had planned on. I had one random thought right before you hopped in here. Because the NBA draft is going on as we record this in the background. Just saw Cedric Coward get. I think he was drafted by the Blazers and then immediately traded to Memphis. So a little reunion there with Jalen Wells. But it's just so weird to me that the NBA draft is literally days after they wrap up the NBA Finals. Somebody suggested today, I think it was Andrew Brandt, the former GM and longtime front office executive for the Green Bay Packers, and now does media analysis stuff. Where he was talking about how cool it would be if that was the case in the NFL. I don't know if I agree with that. How weird would that be if the NFL draft was like the week after the Super Bowl?
I think it would just eliminate all this other crap that happens from the guys running around in shorts and all this stuff. The biggest thing I could think of is if you are a talented football player, you're going to show it regardless of what you ran in the 40, you're jumping, how high you jump, your 40, your what's it called, the shuttle, all these drills that they matter, but do they really matter? Dan, if you can play football, you can play football. We don't need you out there doing
I don't know what we would do though. Like, what would we'd have to shut it down in February.
Exactly, but so what they're doing is they're giving you stuff. They're giving you content. Yeah. So that's kind of the risk you take. The NBA, There's always trades. So they always are giving you something. There's a lot of news going on. And I think the NFL could do that. There's always news in the NFL. It just wouldn't be, oh, well, such and such ran a 4.22 today. Oh, my God. He just ran the fastest time ever. It would be, oh, Xavier Worthy signs a 4-year deal with the Chiefs worth X amount of dollars. He's the highest paid receiver of all time because of the speed and what he did last year, blah, blah, blah. You would get more of that and less of other news such as how they did in the 40. But I think the NFL does a good job of giving us something, whether it be big free agent signings. So if they did that, I think we'd be fine. It would just be, to your point, weird and different just to see it as soon as the Super Bowl ends. All right, NFL draft next week, guys. Who you got? And now GMs are working even harder now to figure out what guys match and fit what they want to do going to the next season. I'd probably give them maybe, well, actually, your scouting department, if they do a good job, they should be on it. So never mind. I think that's fine. Because you have
the scouting part of it, the film part of it, they're already doing that.
Exactly.
They're already looking at next year's class.
Yeah. You have guys dedicated. Their job is to find guys that can help your roster. So when the season ends, whether you're in the NBA finals or you didn't make the playoffs, your search should already start. Shouldn't matter. So to Brant's point, yeah, get it done. That it would be weird, but why not?
The one disadvantage I could see is any players that get hurt during the year, at any point early in the year. I'm thinking about a guy like Siobhan Revelle who gets hurt like week 3. And then some guys like Riley Mills, who was drafted by the Seahawks, gets hurt in the playoffs. Like he would just have not had an opportunity to do anything for teams at all. So it would be a big.
That's where I think your scouts come in and say, I know he's hurt, but you got to take a risk on this kid. There's no reason why you shouldn't. I know injuries are big because, hey, if you can't play coming into the next season, what use are you to this franchise, right? But that's where the scouting comes in. Oh, yeah, he got banged up, but this is a small injury. He is 100% healthy. We can get him in here and do drills, whatever the case may be. And that's obviously different than going and doing the combine where all eyes are on you. This is a private thing where, for instance, maybe the Seahawks had a conversation with Jalen Milroe before they drafted him, which they obviously did. But all we hear is that, oh, yeah, he came in for a private visit with the Seahawks. The talks went well. That's all the insight we get, which is news for us to talk about on podcast and other TV stations of that nature. So with that being said, yeah, it's a risk. But I think if the NFL is trying to change the dynamic of how they do things and have a faster offseason and get right into the draft and keep the thing going, I see no problem with it because guess what you have next with the NBA? Summer League starts in July. So it's bang, bang. And the next thing you know, they're doing the U.S. Olympic stuff. And then, oh, my gosh, it's preseason. And then, oh, my gosh, the NBA season has started again. You can almost do that with the NFL. You have a month of downtime, which is now until, obviously, training camp. There's plenty of stuff that's happening. Aaron Rodgers is now on a team. There's content constantly happening. Guys are signing big deals. You get it. Unfortunate injuries. So we'll always have that news. So if the NFL did go to that direction, I would love to see how it will work the first year and how we can make it and how it can be better.
They'd probably see one offseason of crappy ratings for the NFL Network, and they'd switch it right back.
That probably would happen.
Yeah. All right, let's get into this. I tasked you with a couple different categories, couple different buckets to put some players in. We've spent so much time over the last few months talking about the guys at the top of the roster and draft picks and guys that we think are going to play key roles. In the process, though, some guys get overlooked. And so there's two buckets that I want to put some names into tonight. One is which players on the roster currently do you think are facing the most pressure in 2025? And then we're going to talk about some guys that maybe you're getting lost in the shuffle and have gotten forgotten a little bit over the offseason. Let's start with the pressure idea. Give me a name or two of guys that you think really need to step up and perform this year.
So I'll go offense and defense. So on offense, the obvious one would be Sam Darnold, but I'm not going to go with Sam. I'm going to go with a receiver and Jackson Smith-Njigba because while he had great numbers last season, he had someone who was able to allow him to do such thing, which is that DK Metcalf, a guy that dictates coverage when he's on the field. 6'4", runs a 4.3. You got to put someone over the top. You got to have a safety there. And when that happens, you know what that does? It allows JSN to be one-on-one, and he won his matchups. You go look at his stats. You can rewatch the tape. He did his part on that in winning his matchups. Now I'm interested in how teams will guard the Seahawks because now you have Cooper Kupp, who also played somewhat of the slot. He can still get out there on the X, but that is not his primary position. That is not something that he is an expert at. He can do it, yes, but is he an expert? No. So with that being said, JSN, the spotlight's on you, my brother. How are you going to fare when it's 3rd and 10 and the Seahawks need a big play? Is he going to be able to find a way to get open? I think he's a really talented route runner, really strong hands. He doesn't blow you away with his speed, but you know what he can do? He creates separation with his hips, his movement of his body. He's so smooth at the top of his routes. I went back and watched some of his tape, and I'm just thinking, I think he'll be fine. I don't see why he wouldn't.
Yeah.
So that's why I think there's a lot of pressure on him. Whether he feels it or not is a completely different discussion. These guys get paid to play the game. They're going up against defenders. They also get paid to play the game. He just has to do his part.
He sure doesn't seem like a guy that's feeling pressure. I mean, I've had a chance to interact with him a few times. He's one of the most relaxed, chill athletes I've ever been around.
Exactly. He doesn't give off the vibe of, oh, I gotta do this year. I just know it's all on the line. Jackson's probably going to tell you, I'm excited for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to the challenge. And we got a great old line. We got Sam Darnold back there. I'm ready to rock and roll. Ken Walker's going to come back and do his thing. So I would imagine he is ready for the challenge. But he is someone with a spotlight that he has to be the X receiver. Now, obviously, with this offense, they're going to use him a bunch of different ways. I went back and watched how the Rams use Cooper Kupp. We're going to see a lot of that where he lines up all over the field because that's just how this offense is going to be ran based on the fact that you don't have a X. You don't have the weapon X. But maybe I'm wrong, and Jackson takes the next step, and he becomes weapon X, using his ability to use his route running, his hands, his ability to be just on 3rd down, Sam, I'm right here. Because that's what it was for Ty Lockett. Ty Lockett, he always found a way to get open. I don't know what it was. Oh, I do. It was his route running and ability. Geno just had trust in him. When it was 3rd and long, you know who he found? Not DK Metcalf. It was Tyler Lockett. And then last season, it became JSN. And that's why Tyler Lockett had such a quote-unquote down year. And that's why the Seahawks were saying, yeah, we're not going to bring you back because we see JSN emerging. We obviously have DK. We can let you walk. Now, maybe if they had 2020 hindsight and they knew they were going to trade DK, maybe they keep Ty Lockett. But they don't have that hindsight. So they end up letting him go. They bring in Cooper Kupp. They changed the whole offensive, the receiving room, I should say. And now you're looking at it, okay, JSN's our guy. So JSN would be the one player who I'm looking at that's saying, yeah, spotlight's on you, buddy. What are you going to do? And then
hold on to your defensive name, and I'll give you an offensive name too. I had a few written down here. I did the same thing you did.
Yep.
Like Sam Darnold's too obvious.
Yeah, it's too easy.
The quarterback always has the most pressure, but especially a new guy replacing the old guy who was good and all of that. We get that. We've talked about that enough. I thought about Ken Walker just because, but I feel like, it's contract year. I'm not even sure if they're going to be interested in signing him to a second contract because of the depth in that room. I'm going to go with maybe a surprising name. Some people might feel like this is surprising as far as pressure goes. I'm going to go with Gray Zabel because here, John Schneider just completely blew up his entire MO. He did something he's never done before by taking an interior offensive lineman in the first round. After months and months and months of him telling us, we have a plan, we're going to do something, even after the Will Fries thing, fell through, we have a plan. Now we know that they had their eye on Zabel going all the way back to the Senior Bowl and probably before that. So he takes the big swing to address the biggest problem on this roster for a decade now. He has to be good. Like I'm not sitting here saying I think he won't be. I've been a Zabel fan since I even learned who he was halfway through the college football season, and then getting to see him in Mobile and everything in the way he knocked the entire draft process out of the park. I think he'll be fine, but it's still a massive jump in competition to go from NDSU, to go from the FCS to the NFL level, to be plugged in at left guard, no competition. They're not even, putting the window dressing on that left guard spot. It's his. He has to be good.
You're 1,000% right. He has to be good. And I even like your Ken Walker pick because of the new offensive style that they're using. Last season, after watching every game and then rewatching the film after every game, obviously, you saw hesitation. And that hesitation was one thing. I don't trust this offensive line. Right. Because there are times where he missed a hole. You know why? Dan, he didn't trust the guys in front of him. Mm-hmm. Now they're moving to a zone scheme. And that's saying, hey, we're blocking in this area. We're not going after number 54, number 56. We're going to an area, and if there's a guy there, we move him. It's really simple. So now you have to trust that, because if you go the wrong way in this system, you're just making it even worse. So last season we saw him not trust the O-line. Are you going to trust the O-line this season and hit the hole and take it to the house? Because we all know when Ken gets it, he's gone. No one's catching him. There's been so many runs where, hell, the game-winning drive 2 years ago against the Lions, Gino, if I'm not mistaken, he checks to a run and he runs to the house, ball game. That's the type of explosiveness Ken has when he trusts everything and when everybody's in sync. When he doesn't trust it, that's where you see him bouncing around, looking like Le'Veon Bell, and not finding the hole. Instead, losing maybe a yard or running backwards and then gaining no yards. So that's why I liked your Ken Walker pick if you were going to use that. But Gray's even better, just because, to your point, pressure's on you, John, and the kid as well, because you have to be good. If you're not good, then we all know what's going to happen. Seahawks are going to finish probably 8 wins, and they're out the playoffs yet again. 9 wins at best.
And I've said that I think, and this is why I had him on the list, I think Ken Walker may dictate as much as any player on that side of the ball on this roster how successful that offense can be. Like if he plays up to his potential and finally puts it all together, plays 17 games, first of all, let's start there, and then finds a fit in this offense. Like some of the pressure comes from the fact that he's just got a bunch of guys breathing down his neck. Like that's a really, really good young running back room. Like they're going to cut guys to get to 53 that are going to be scooped up by other teams. I'm convinced of it. But nobody can impact this offense as dynamically, I don't believe, as a healthy, committed, dialed in Ken Walker. And I do think the scheme can be a perfect fit for him, because essentially everything that he tries to do when he cuts back and reverses field to create lanes and create openings should, if it's operated effectively, be built into this scheme. It's kind of the whole objective of it to begin with, is to give you those lanes. And so that's why I had him there. Who do you have on defense? Guy facing a lot of pressure this year.
So defensively, I was going back and forth, but I came to a conclusion. I will go with Josh Jobe. And people are probably like, why would you go with Josh Jobe? He played fine last season. Well, for one thing, he did play okay, but there are games where he got picked on. And teams are like, yeah, that's your weakest link. And they attacked him. And they were able to be successful in attacking him. You look at the game, I think it was the Vikings, if I'm not mistaken. I have to partially wrote it down, but nonetheless, there were times where he just was attacked, and you can see like, oh shoot, this is our weakest guy. Like we can't hide him. So in that scenario, when you look at going into this season, you look at the roster, who's the weakest link on defense? Tyrese Knight? Probably not. Julian Love? No. Kobe Bryant? No. Rick Woolen? No. Devin Witherspoon? Best player on the team, arguably. Leonard Williams? You can go to the list. And I think on the defense, Josh Jobe might be the weakest link, which isn't a bad thing. Every defense has a weakest link. Is your weakest link getting toasted? Is he the reason y'all are losing right now? Or is he the reason why he's giving up explosives? If he can mitigate that, I think they'll be fine. But I think that's why they bring in Shaq. Someone that a little bit taller, maybe more physical, as you mentioned, in the run game. Not that Josh Jobe can't do it. We've seen Josh Jobe get in there and make a tackle. Not afraid to get physical. Not a problem at all. But I think this is just insurance, bringing in Shaq, saying, okay, you guys are going to dog it out. Obviously, Mike McDonald loves Josh Jobe, but he's not afraid to put 2 dogs at it and see who comes out on top. Yeah. So I think that's where there's a little pressure on him, because he's also a guy that's been around, bounced around the league a little bit, hasn't really found a home, and then last season proved enough to be on the field and be considered a starter, was better than Trey Brown, who is now, if I'm not mistaken, a 49er. Seahawks saw that and said, yeah, we like Josh Jobe. He is going to be in the running for our starting cornerback position. And now you hear the news of Shaquille Griffin. So he's looking over his shoulder. Is he going to be able to lock that spot down, or is Shaq going to end up taking it from him at some point during the season? So the spotlight's on him to show that he has earned this role as a starter, opposite side of Rick Woolen, and with obviously Devin Witherspoon playing the nickel. And then obviously they can interchange, and Mike McDonald can get fancy and creative however he wants to, because he has, as you put it, 3 dogs on defense that are at your corner position. So I look at Josh Jobe in the spotlight and saying, okay, pressure's on you, But he's another guy that he doesn't seem fazed by it. Like, as I mentioned, he's been around the league, practice squad, not being on an active roster. So this moment for him is everything. So I expect him to show up and compete. Shout out Pete Carroll there, and do his thing and maybe find himself a part of that starting lineup.
Yeah, maybe get himself a multi-year contract. And this all ties into exactly why my pick is Riq Woolen. I think there's always pressure in a contract year, right? But that's kind of independent of the inner workings of the roster. It's just, I think he's gotten a little bit of a bum rap because of what happened his second year. And maybe the shoulder injury was a bigger issue than the team let on, that we gave him credit for. He has this reputation now among quite a bit of the fan base that he just doesn't like to won't come up and run support, to which I always say, go back and watch the UTSA tape. There's tons of reps where he's coming up and smoking guys. Like, he was not afraid to get physical. But he, especially in light of the news today, like, that cornerback room just got a little bit deeper. And the guy that they signed today is someone who is proven to be a solid run defender. And so, we know the organization has a bunch of confidence in him. There was seemingly, at least to our knowledge, no shopping of him, no considering moving him this offseason, much to the chagrin of a bunch of fans. Just a year ago, Leslie Frazier was singing his praises and talking about how he thought he could be a number one and he could shadow number one receivers. I feel like there is some additional pressure on him to justify the organization's confidence in him and to kind of take that next step and sort of force them into a situation where now they have a decision to make next offseason and whether you want to pay this guy, because now he's a young, athletic, long corner coming off a big year, and now he's a free agent.
Absolutely. I think he's just mentally, he gets in his head too much. I think Mike McDonald's touched on that. He's not locked in. So I think once he locks in, we'll see the rookie version of him. They're bringing in Shaq Griffin, a veteran that can maybe help him with that process as well, someone that understands the game. Mm-hmm. And all you can do is just go play ball. Dude, you have all the gifts in the world. Go out there and show them. Yeah, you're going to get beat sometimes. It's how you come back after getting beat. I get it. Those dudes on the offensive side, they get paid too. CeeDee Lamb is going to beat you. That happens. He's one of the best receivers in the NFL, right behind Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is going to beat you. You're playing a position where guys are running full speed at you, and you have to have instincts and reaction and make plays. I'm not expecting you to go out there and have zeros across the board with wide receivers. That's not my expectation, because I understand what you're going up against. Guys are running crazy routes, offensive line blocking forever. Seems like dude's been holding the ball to throw it for I don't know how long. That's not easy to do.
Yeah.
But it's how you get back up after you failed, after you didn't have a successful rep. Because that's going to happen. As I mentioned, you're going to get beat. But what do you do the next 4 plays? That's where I think Tariq has to just, okay, I got beat. Cool. I'm going to be locked in and ready to go. Let's do it again. Because I do think when it comes down to it, if he's not going to face a number one, the top 5 receiver every week.
All right, go ahead. Finish.
There shouldn't be a reason why Darius Slayton has 9 catches for 175 yards on you guys. That shouldn't happen. Like, no discredit to Darius Slayton, but he's not a top 10 receiver in the league.
Yeah.
That shouldn't happen. That's where, to your point, okay, well, yeah, there's pressure on you to be better in these scenarios. When you go up against a team that doesn't have a Jamar Chase or a Tyreek Hill, your expectations, yeah, you should be able to lock these guys down. I'm not going to be upset if the guy gets 1 catch on you, but 9 to 10? Matter of fact, that was the game Josh Jobe got picked on as well. Now that I remember, it was Josh Jobe and Riq Woolen against the Giants. They were just like, oh, little corner, Darius Slayton, eat him up. And I'm like, Malik Neighbors is not even playing. What happened in practice over the week? So I like that selection as well.
Just a quick break to ask you to take some action. Hit that thumbs up, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you don't already. That is the best way to support me as an independent content creator if you like what I do. If you want to be notified of any time that I post new material, hit that bell button as well. If you want to watch things ad-free, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can either sign up for YouTube Premium, best $13.99 a month I've ever spent, or head on over to Patreon and look at the tiers there. Sign up for one of those membership tiers, because not only will you be able to watch everything ad-free and listen to everything ad-free, the audio feeds will also show up over there. But there is some exclusive material that only you can watch. And once we get into the season and training camp covering the team, there will be much much more of that. You can also get access to some of that same material by being a paid member here on the YouTube channel. All the other ways that you can directly support me are listed down below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support. Yeah, and I feel like he's close. You know, he just needs to clean up the lapses, the little plays here and there where it just seems like he just kind of fell asleep. I think even on the game winner to Justin Jefferson, where Darnold got outside the pocket, he just kind of came up on it and just kind of lost his guy.
I don't know if you have. So it was cover 2 on that one. So he wasn't even supposed to carry that. He did his job. Okay. It's actually Julian Love's fault. Julian Love was, I don't know what he was looking at.
Oh, that's right. He was hustling over to try to get it. Okay. Yeah.
Justin Jefferson is the outside receiver. When you're the safety, I'm sorry, I'm cheating to that side. Like, you're not beating me with Justin Jefferson.
Always.
And the thing is, Julian was late. Now, could Tariq have carried it more? Yes. But in that play on cover 2, he was supposed to be in the flat. And if he carries for too long, that flat opens up, albeit it's not a touchdown. It's just a bigger play. So I will give credit and state that it wasn't Reek's fault. Julian Love was just a hair late. If I'm not mistaken, I think Julian Love might have mentioned that in the presser, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless, that was on Julian. But it doesn't matter because against Green Bay Packers, Reek fell asleep against Christian Watson.
Yeah.
Or no, it wasn't Christian Watson. What's his name? Oh my gosh, Romeo Doubs. Romeo Doubs fell asleep on him.
Doubs, whatever.
First down, first and goal. Reek, what are you doing, man? What's going on? And those are the plays where, okay, you got beat. How do you respond? Oh, you got beat again. That was a game where it was a rough day for Reek against the Packers. I remember that vividly. Like, damn.
It was a rough day for a lot of people against the Packers.
Yeah. Yes.
That was a rough one. All right, let's flip over to our second bucket, I guess. Just use that word again. I asked you for maybe some players that aren't getting enough attention, forgotten, overlooked, just not getting talked about enough for whatever reason. Who do you got?
All right, so I'll give one on offense and one on defense. For defense, I'll go with Kobe Bryant. Obviously, he's in an interesting year with contract as well.
Mm-hmm.
Could the Seahawks go out and pay him? They probably should. Get ahead of it. Why not? He played, I thought, good football last season. He's also not your biggest safety, but he hits like a truck, man.
Yeah.
He sees ball and he goes and gets it. He is fun to watch. Against the Rams, who did he light up? He caught a game-winning touchdown. I'm forgetting his name, but he lit him up. And they threw a flag, and then they picked it up because it was a legal hit. That's what he brings. He brings just a fierce attitude. And I think the move from him to moving him from corner to safety, best thing that could have happened to him. Because that corner, it didn't work out well. And I think people have kind of just been like, oh yeah, who's our other safety? Oh yeah, it's Kobe Bryant. Hey, he's fine. He's okay.
Right.
Yeah, he is fine. He is okay. Pay the man, get the deal done, because he's just a perfect fit for what Mike McDonald wants to do. You can put him in the box. You can put him back there. He gets it done. And he gets forgotten just because you have Julian Love. You have all these other guys that sometimes maybe you're just like, oh, yeah, Kobe Bryant. Oh, yeah, he did. Man, he's not bad. He's actually good. Yeah, he is. So don't sleep on him. I think he could have a really big year this season. And it's all on tape. Watching him, I watched him, a few weeks ago, just rewatched him. I'm like, wow, this dude, you know what he's doing. There's a reason why he is where he's at. He's starting safety for the Seahawks because he just knows ball. And I think the way he goes about it in practice and in games, the leader that he is, even though it might not be he might not be in the huddle like amping guys up, but you can see the communication, the respect others have for him on the field. And I think that goes a long ways on the Seahawks team. So don't forget about Kobe Bryant, y'all.
He's a guy that I've got them, along with, there's two players I'd like to see him extend before this season. One's Charles Cross, obviously, although there's really no urgency for them to do that now that they picked up the 5th-year option. But I'd like to see him do it with Kobe too. If he's really a player that they feel like can be a foundational piece, get ahead of it, maybe save a little bit of money on the front side by doing it early. All the other guys that are up for extensions, I'd rather see him play the season out, guys like Mafe and even Walker. Like, let's see them earn it first. But man, I'd love to see him lock Kobe up now, especially with the safety market has gotten a little forgiving over the last few years. I think you can get him at a pretty solid number.
1,000%.
Yeah. I'll do a guy on defense too. And I was going to go a couple different ways, but I'll stay in that same room because I think people have completely forgotten about Jarek Reed. Like I really liked what I saw from him pre-injury. Like we all knew coming out of New Mexico State that maybe there was going to be a transition for him as a safety, but he was going to be a special teams demon. And then that preseason, I mean, there were rookie moments. We saw him get beat a couple of times, but we also saw him, show some great instincts, I thought, sideline to sideline, wasn't afraid to hit guys, even though he's not the biggest player. And then he just never really seemed to get any footing last year, even though he came back from the injury. Sometimes with players, even with the advancements and how quick guys come back from ACLs now, it takes a full season after that. But it just seems like he's gotten passed up by a couple of guys now. Kobe Bryant went out and established himself last year, leapfrogged him in the future plans. I think even Ty Okada at times was getting run at the end of last season on the active roster and getting snaps. And now with Nick Emanwari and the investment there, it doesn't look like they have any plans to play him kind of deep at this point in his career, but just his presence on the roster, it just makes you wonder what Reed's future is. I'd like to see him have a big preseason and kind of assert himself again.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, he has a tough road ahead just because it is a stacked room. I mean, Ty Okada, he's getting some snaps, and he's been around, I want to say, since Pete Carroll. He's been in and out. Mm-hmm. So he is definitely someone that the Seahawks are familiar with because they kept him last year. He got a few snaps live action. So, yeah, that's a good one. People probably have forgotten about him.
Even with, Bell has had, a really, really good OT. I'm forgetting his first name. Is it DeAnthony?
Yes.
They signed for the Cleveland Browns,
right?
Special teams player, kept every day in OTAs. It seemed like some reporter on the field there was talking about plays he was making. So, that's going to be a tough road to hoe for Jarek, but I'd like to see him take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's a good one for sure, 1,000%.
All right, who's getting overlooked on offense?
Offense. Oh, I have two, so I'll just. How do I want to do this? I'll go with Kenny McIntosh, 1A, just because he's in a room with obviously a healthy Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet. But when Ken went down and they were like, "Hey, Zach," or "Hey, Kenny, you want to take a snap here?" I was like, "Okay." Mm-hmm. I see why the Seahawks got this guy. I got him late, but okay, there's some promise. But the room is just, when Ken Walker's healthy and Zach Charbonnet is doing his thing, you kind of forget about him. So I've heard rumors of a trade. And when I say rumors of a trade, I'm talking in the media. No, the Seahawks I haven't heard anything from inside the house in that regard. But media members like, oh, maybe they trade Ken Walker. And now you have Kenny McIntosh move up to the 1 and Zach Charbonnet is the 2. Hey, I thought Kenny, when he was out there, he showed some promise. Yeah. And another guy, I don't know if he's forgotten, but I think when you look at the roster, I can see maybe there's a chance that he could be, although I think he's shown enough that you shouldn't forget him just because he's doing it. He does it in practice, and that's Jake Bobo. He's not fast at all. We know that, but he's always finding a way to just get open. And that's what he does. He has good frame. He goes up and gets it. He don't drop many passes. So when the ball's coming his way, it's a catch. Also, you can use him as a tight end sometimes. He's a solid blocker. He can be better. There were instances last year where he missed an assignment or just got blown up. But I get it. You're going to be the linebackers. It's not easy. But he is someone that I'm like, okay, he can get lost in the shuffle, okay, especially with Horton out of Colorado State, that is. We know what he can do. He's special. The MVS coming from the Saints, take the top off of defenses. Obviously, JSN, Cooper Kupp. I'm naming a lot of guys. Where does Jake Bobo fit in there?
Yeah, so and there's a question of how many receivers are going to carry this year. Clint Kubiak doesn't use 3 wide receiver sets as often, uses tight ends more. The Seahawks have almost always opened the 53-man roster with 6 wide receivers. I don't know if they're going to carry 6 this year.
And then also I'll throw in a third guy just because he's shown flashes, and I thought last season productive, Cody White. He's another guy, a big receiver that when he found his way on the field, he know what he did. He made a play. He made plays. And that's all you want out of your guys. If we put you in the game, are you going to make something of it? And he did that. So those are 3 guys. I know you asked for 1. My apologies, Dan.
No, that's
3 guys. 3 guys that are probably thinking like, we got him. Don't forget, these three guys, they can actually help your team. I'm not saying Cody's going to go out there and give you 700 yards, but he can get you 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
You throw it up there for him, he can get you 3 touchdowns. Jake Bobo, do the same thing. And then obviously with Kenny McIntosh, I see the explosion. I see how physically he ends the run. He's like a lesser version of Ken Walker, if you ask me, without the breakaway speed. Kenny can get out there, but he doesn't have that extra gear that Ken does. But when Kenny is finishing a run, he's lowering his shoulder. He's not afraid to do that. And he's not the biggest dude either. So those are the 3 guys that I'm looking at saying, hey, they're on the roster still. Don't forget about them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to some of these back end of the roster battles this preseason. I think it's going to be fierce for those last few spots. I'll give you a guy from offense that I think might piss some fans off because they want to forget about him. And that's Anthony Bradford. I think he's being dismissed a little too quickly, and I get it because I initially, when all the changes were made in the coaching staff on offense, I thought the same thing. I thought that's it for Anthony Bradford. He's not a scheme fit. But for his size, all of his testing through the draft process, he is an elite athlete for his size. And as much as we want to dismiss him because Christian Haynes is a perfect scheme fit, this is the scheme he ran in college. It's going to fit like a glove. The staff really wants him to succeed. They invested more in him as far as draft capital goes. But every time you want to forget about Anthony Bradford, 2 things happen. Number one is I just remember some of the reps I've watched on tape where especially that's just their struggles in pass protection, but in the run game, there's times that he blocks 2 guys at once. Like he is a strong, stout dude. And John Schneider and Mike McDonald just keep bringing him up. And they keep like unprompted, keep reminding us that, hey, don't discount Anthony Bradford. And Schneider said on one of his radio shows right before the draft, even went out of his way to say, we like how he gets to the second level. He can play in this scheme. I'm not so sure. I want it to be Christian Haynes just because I want 3rd round picks to make the roster and to be productive starters. They should be. But I also just want the best guy out there. And I will say this, I think Anthony Bradford's ceiling is higher. And I think if Haynes wins the job and they release Bradford or they maybe shop him, I mean, there's got to be gap power teams out there that would be really intrigued by adding a really young, strong, athlete at guard out there. So I haven't given up on him yet.
As you shouldn't, but I get it. Christian Haynes, he's the eye candy right now. To be fair, if I'm not mistaken, Bradford was a 4th round, so it's a battle.
Mm-hmm.
One of these dudes is going to have to win it. Last year was not successful. Rotating these dudes, it just never, you never got the consistency. It was nasty. And then Sautau Lamea, he comes in and he's, you know what? This guy's not too bad. It's like, y'all got to figure this out. You just can't be having week 8. It's still a competition. No. This needs to be settled week 2 preseason. And you need to have a starter. Can't wait till middle of the year because then that just explains how bad this offensive line is yet again. So I'm sure 12s are hopeful that will not happen again, that maybe Bradford or Christian Haynes takes that next step and they solidify themselves as the right guard.
And that's why it was so refreshing to hear Mike McDonald say that. I think it was his last podium spot before they wrapped up minicamp, where he said they'd like to get that settled sooner rather than later. I did think that was one of the many mistakes Scott Huff and Ryan Grubb made last year, and the staff is just letting that competition, carry over into the regular season a little too much. Just for an offensive line that already had no continuity, it just kind of undercut the opportunity to build some of that. So good stuff. Hey, before I let you go, just I'm sure most of my viewers are probably familiar with your work also on KJR. A regular daily spot Monday through Friday, right? And
yes,
the Man-to-Man podcast with Michael-Shawn Dugar, who does such a great job covering the team for The Athletic. I watched an interview recently with you on another podcast. I think it was sometime last year, talking about your background. And you were really kind of ahead of the curve. You were a little bit forward thinking when you came out of Washington State. You were trying to decide which way to go. And I remember going through that decision process, right? Like back when I did it, much longer ago than you, there were kind of 2 directions you could go. You could either go to a big market and take a support job, right? You could be an assistant producer, a segment producer. You could just write or whatever. You could get coffee for people and then try to work your way up that way. And a bunch of my classmates did that. I chose to go the small market route so I could get on the air right away. 6 years later, I'm making $2,000 a month trying to raise a family. Didn't really work. And so I had to get out of it. But you had the vision when you got out. I think you said it was 2016 to just start a podcast right away. And this is kind of, in my view, because I didn't start my first podcast till 2018. And I even thought then it was sort of just blossoming. What gave you the vision to think, I'm just going to start talking into a microphone?
So when I was in college, so 2013, I got to WSU, I was quoted the weirdo, because usually when you have headphones in and you're walking to class, you're listening to music. Doesn't matter what music is, you're listening to music.
Mm-hmm.
I was not listening to music. I was listening to podcasts. And at this time, the only podcasters were the famous people, the names you knew, Jalen and Jacoby, Charlemagne the God, Andrew Schultz. These were prominent figures in their multimedia areas of what they do. And they talked and did a podcast. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, I'm not as big as them, but I know a lot of people. I have connections. I'm already doing a radio show at my college, KJR Radio. I'm sure you probably did some. Yeah. So I already had the background in being able to grab a mic and just be able to talk and get my thoughts out. But now I can structure it in a way where no breaks. I can talk for as long as I want.
Mm-hmm.
I have topics. So for me, it was like, okay, how can I get a podcast going? So I just literally, that's where I got the idea. Listening to The Brilliant Idiots, which I still listen to this day. And unfortunately, Jalen Jacoby, their show got canned, I want to say 2-3 years ago. But those are my inspirations. Those are the people that laid it all out for me. And I was thinking, man, I'm going to do that. So yeah, I was listening to podcasts and realized I might have a voice in this. And then it all kind of just worked out organically. I had started a podcast with Donald Watts, son of Supersonic legend Slick Watts. We started a podcast, and I also launched a podcast with my friends that I knew probably wouldn't last, but I wanted to show structure, okay, I can set something up and bring people together to talk about sports that are of interest, high school, collegiate, and professional. So I gained all those skills and happened to know a guy that is a reporter who I wanted to do a radio show with, but while I was in college, unfortunately, he was too busy editing stories. So he didn't have the time to do radio with me.
Yeah.
So when I had him on with Donald and I think we had him on twice, he got offered an opportunity to do a podcast covering the Seahawks. And he hit me up because in my head, I was like, damn, it would be cool if I could just do that with my guy. But I didn't want to ask him. And then, all the stars aligned. He hit me. He was like, hey, bro, they're trying to pay me to do a podcast for the Seattle PI. I told him I'm not doing it alone. Can I get a guest? And they're like, well, yeah, you can do that. And Mike reached out to me, and the rest is history. So it kind of all worked out. But the fact that I was willing to take a risk and just say, you know what? I'm going to do something that nobody's doing, and that's podcasting. Like, I would consider myself one of the first people in Seattle to start doing their own podcast. And I'm not saying I'm the biggest to do it, but I know I was like, oh, you're doing a podcast? And then you slowly start to see it build up. So I take credit in just being the guy that, went out there on a risk and did something. And it turned into a YouTube channel and all this other stuff. Like I said, I don't have 1 million followers or anything, but I know I was like, I did something that was unique. It was different. And I wasn't the famous guy. I'm just a guy that went to WSU as you did. I didn't play college football. I played high school for a year, learned a little bit, and that was it. And now I do a podcast about the Seahawks with my friend who happens to cover the team, has relationships, all that cool stuff. So it all just kind of got full circle. Just my little spark of like, you know what, I'm going to start a podcast. I don't know how, but having those connections, knowing Donald Watts, having friends that want to talk sports, it all worked out.
It's amazing how far it's come. I remember, I think one of the first podcasts I ever was aware of was when Bill Burr started doing it. And he tells the story about how when he first started doing it, he literally would just call into this service. And basically it was like leaving a voicemail. He would just kind of spew some random thoughts, and then they would post it. And then, look how far that's come. I'll tell you a quick story I think you'll appreciate. I never had an on-air gig at KUGR. I was focused on the television side. If I could go back and change the course of history, I would have focused on the radio side, because I think that's one of the reasons I started podcasting. I always felt like I missed out or chose the wrong fork in the road. Hated having to wear a damn tie and style my hair, and just was envious of the guys that that could just go to work looking like this every day in a ball cap and just shoot the shit. That being said, when I was in college, if you had told me that 24-hour-a-day sports radio would be a major genre and a concept in this country, I would have thought you're crazy. But I did do a radio gig. Orton Hall had a radio station that they called KORT, and all that was in the room was a turntable and a receiver, right, an amp, and then a dual cassette player. And so what I had to do to plan my shows out is I had to map it all out ahead of time, and I had to take 2 cassette tapes and then decide what my playlist was going to be and then alternate them, right? So put song 1, track 1, all the odd numbered tracks on one tape and all the even numbered tracks on the other one. Nobody listened, but I didn't care because I was on the radio, right? It's like when I did my first podcast. I didn't think anyone would listen, and no one really did to that one. I wanted to talk about it. And here we are. That's
the challenging part. Yeah. I understand that, because when I was doing it with my friends, Chris, how many people are listening? I was like, I don't know if you guys want to know the answer to that. When you see 27 people listened, that's kind of a gut punch, especially if you have, let's say you have 500 followers on Instagram and you put out like, new pod, you would hope that 10% check it out,
Right.
And when they don't, you're like, dang. But what I try to get them to understand, it's about being consistent. If you are consistently posting that you're doing something, maybe they check it out. And before you knew it, we had gone up from 27 to 50, from 50 to about 75. And then we, maxed out about like 100, 150. And then we started getting guests. People want to come on our show.
Yeah.
Whether they were fans of us or not, they wanted their voice to be heard. And that was something powerful that I wanted them to think about that. Like, they want to come on our show to debate us, to argue with us about sports, so they can get their voice out there, regardless of who's listening. They saw the content and they want to do it. So to your point about no one listened, yeah, we understood that. I get it. When you're seeing numbers, you're like, wow, okay, do I want to continue doing this?
That first one that hits 100 it's a big deal. Right. I remember the first one that hit 100. I was like, wow, maybe I could do something with this. It took like 4 more years, but
it's all about the consistency.
Right.
Exactly.
And here we are. And I'm so glad you were able to join me today. I know it's a slow time the next few weeks until we get to the 23rd and training camp opens, but just let people know where they can hear your stuff.
Yeah. Seahawks Man to Man. That's Seahawks Man, the number 2 man, with Mike Dugar of The Athletic. We are on a break right now. So we just dropped our latest episode last week. I will be posting some clips from that, but we're chilling. We going on our break. Mike's doing his thing with his wife. So he is chilling. I'm chilling. I'm also, as Dan mentioned, I am on KJR Sportsradio as an on-air talent and producer and on-air talent. I work 10 to 1 Monday through Friday. So you can hear me there as well. And outside of that, I just be chilling, man. So Dan, I appreciate you giving me some time to talk Seahawks with you. This was a blast, and hopefully we do it again sometime.
Absolutely. And I'll be out there for training camp. Hopefully we can say hi in person.
Absolutely. 1000%, man.
All right. Thanks, man. Go Cougs.
No, go Cougs.
Well, I've been looking forward to that, and that was a lot of fun. I envy Christopher that he gets to take some time off now for the next month. I will continue to push through with 5 shows a week, almost daily, kind of dependent on news, availability of guests and whatnot, but I will continue to push through between now and training camp. There will be a little bit of a lull between the 16th and the 19th of July as we drive back from the East Coast to Seattle to get there in time for training camp, but I'll try to get some stuff pre-recorded so that I can release it throughout that week. In the meantime, follow me on Twitter at Seahawks Forever. Subscribe to the channel. Do all the things that I asked you to earlier. I'd really appreciate that. And also, one of the other ways that you can help the channel the most is to engage with it. Feeds directly into the YouTube algorithm. Leave a comment down below. Tell me who you think we didn't mention that has a lot of pressure on them this year to perform, and also that is being overlooked or forgotten. Can't wait to see your responses. I'm Dan. This is Seahawks Forever. Really appreciate you watching. Forever and always, go Hawks. We'll see you next time.